Okay, so who do we have up first? Let me go to my handy dandy Discord. We'll go to our general thing. It looks like we have, if this switches, there we go. SANDFOT, Shafe, and Eifer will be our first three. SANDFOT, are you ready and eager? It looks like you are. Okay. You are invited to the stage. I am going to back off presenting. Looks like you are starting to present. Let me maximize this. And let me, oops, no, that looks like Jeremy. Their ID is 00012 SANDFOT. So that's a good question, Colton. You have to go back to the, can you get it any other way? And is it important? And can it be justified ethically? It's very rare that informed, because of abuses in the past, non-informed consent research has a really high barrier. You have to show you can't get it otherwise, right? This would be a simple retrospective. You have to show you can't get it otherwise and that it's extremely important and the benefits far outweigh the risks. Oh, and you also have to show that it's low risk, right? This is not necessarily low risk. So there are situations where it could be justified. That is a determination that the IRB board would have to make. And, I'm disappointed that the Minnesota one retroactively did not, retroactively seems to have approved the project. So yeah, there are definitely times when this could happen. I would not expect them to happen. In general, this is unethical research unless there's a really, really good reason. And this was not a really, really good reason as far as I've been able to determine. So, no, that's the problem. A lot of these ones that are done ethically, what they would be is like, I would invite you into a study and I would lie to you about what you're there for. And then immediately upon your leaving, I would debrief you and tell you what it was actually about, and you would have the ability to withdraw, right? So maybe I want to find out if you can smell sulfur, right? So I'd bring you into a room and I would keep raising, the rotten egg smell until you, and we would be talking about something else. Maybe I would be interviewing, I would tell you that I'm studying opinions on open source software, for example. And while you were talking, I would be raising the level of the rotten egg smell until you actually reacted, right? And then we would mark that. That would be the actual data point. And then when you left, I would have to tell you, right, if we're doing this ethically, I would have to tell you that that was what the study was about, right? Low risk, provided I don't gas you completely. You're informed immediately afterward. But if I tell you ahead of time that I'm studying the ability to detect rotten egg smell, it's going to impact the results of the study. So that would be, kind of the low order, uninformed consent. You consented to a study. You didn't consent to the exact study, and I informed you of what it was later. Or you weren't informed of all the details of the exact study, and then I filled them in after the fact. So anyway, yeah, this is a pretty, it's a pretty big deal from both violation of trust of the community and possibly from research ethics. All right. So it's 0012 SANDFOT.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, but you're coming through the wrong speaker. So let me change my speaker so you come through the right way so I know I'm grabbing you. Okay. So now you're coming through the right speakers, so I think we're good.
All right, cool. I'm gonna share.
Okay, what have I been doing? I've been giving you 10 minutes, right? And then giving you and then allowing you to continue on. But I'm giving you a mark at 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Is that what I've been doing past days, I think?
Yes, I think so.
All right, so
Start whenever.
give me just a second to bring up my timer.
Okay, no problem.
Yep, start whenever.
All right, hey everyone. So my project this semester was Brokerbot. Our team members are Jack, Will C, Will Z, Pav, Andy, George, and myself. I am the only member from open source. The other 6 members are contributing as part of Arcos. So like I mentioned, Brokerbot is an Arcos project. It's actually brand new this semester, and it's growing to be bigger and bigger, as we evolve the program and come up with new ideas. But essentially, it's a bot that is capable of continuously analyzing market conditions to make profitable trades by automating trading strategies. And that sounds like a mouthful, but it's essentially a high frequency trading bot. So the end goal that we have in mind for the project is sort of this mock-up we have that one of our group members made, and we want it to become like a mobile app or a web app, something like that, where users can run trading strategies on any stocks or like coins that they want, and we would provide them with information about their portfolio, like gains and losses and stuff like that, as well as other trading algorithms that are popular among users or that are like being used very frequently. Um, and we want it to sort of serve as like a hub for the users. And that's like our end goal. So one issue with this project being open source is obviously that our trading strategies and stuff like that, if they're out there, then people can just profit on it for themselves. So if this project were to continue and we would want, something to be monetized about the project, it would probably be this app, or like we would offer our services as part of like a subscription or something like that. Um, and users would get access to the hub and the algorithms. So here's a flowchart about how the program essentially works. We have main control at the top, and that essentially controls all the broker bots and puts them into their own threads and processes so they can share information. And each broker bot has a portfolio manager, which holds information about gains and losses and any current holdings you have and stuff like that. And each broker bot also has a strategy handler that can handle multiple strategies and implementing them and running them. Um, and you can see at the bottom that these classes are all connected through pipes. And that's one of our group members who is taking operating systems right now. And a lot of that information has actually been really useful because we're able to sort of delegate and share information across classes with using pipes. Um, and the other main components of the program are a screener, which basically analyzes stocks and like volatility and stuff like that to see what stocks are good to trade on, as well as a data handler that holds our own data format, um, and as well as a strategy which holds the actual strategy that we're currently using, and an execution handler which handles the API and actually selling and buying and stuff like that. So some of our goals for the semester were to create a proprietary data format that can be used regardless of whatever API. So currently we're using Alpaca Markets API, but if we were to use Polygon or interactive brokers or anything like that, we want to be able to still use most of our code. So what we have is basically we take in the data from the Alpaca API and convert it to our own pandas data frame so that um, if we were to change an API, we would just have to get the information from, say, Polygon and then convert it into that pandas data frame, and our whole program would still work. We also wanted to create a screener, like a searcher for stock analysis, like I mentioned before, that uses technical indicators like RSI and volatility to determine what stocks we should be trading on. And we also wanted to use threading and processes to maximize efficiency, because obviously if you can do things on different threads or processes and run them in parallel, it can be way more efficient. We also wanted to be able to back trade and test our algorithms before actually trading on real money, obviously, because that could go pretty poorly. Um, but that's something that we're currently working on, as well as creating. This is like our end goal for this semester. We want to be able to create a broker bot and run like a single simple trading strategy on it and paper trade with it. And through this will all be done through a terminal, not like any front end or anything like that. We haven't really started to dig into that yet. As far as project organization goes, we're operating under the MIT license. And for our code of conduct, we don't really have a code of conduct because, I mean, there's only really 6 or 7 contributors, and we all meet twice a week, and we get along pretty well. So there hasn't really been any commit wars or anything like that yet. And same as far as the contribution guidelines, because it's such a small group and we meet so often. It's kind of easy to all stay on the same page, and we usually discuss major project decisions together in those meetings, so it's pretty easy to keep everyone on the same page. And our style guide is the PEP8 style guide for Python. It's a pretty standard style guide for Python, and we've also been using the principles of software function specifications, because a lot of our program is object oriented. So knowing which methods are mutators, creators, producers, stuff like that can be pretty helpful. So you might recognize some of these goals. So as far as progress on these goals, we were able to create our own data format. That's something that I actually worked on with another one of our group members. And it's essentially a pandas data frame with information about the stock, like the ticker, the high and low price, volume, and stuff like that. We also were able to create a screener and a searcher that uses a library called BTA lib. It's like backtrader analysis library. It's pretty comprehensive, and there are a lot of indicators on there. And the screener is pretty well fleshed out. We were also able to create threads and processes for different broker bots, and threading different objects in our class has improved the efficiency a lot. One goal that we didn't really, well, I guess we did foresee, but we didn't foresee how much time it would actually take up, is researching trading algorithms, because our program is pretty useless unless we can make profit off of it and actually implement trading strategies. So one of our group members, George, kind of spearheaded this, and he researched textbooks for high frequency trading algorithms. And he would assign stuff every week for us to read, so we would all kind of stay up to date with that. And that actually took up a big chunk of our time. So we're still working on being able to backtrade and test our algorithms, because that's kind of proven difficult with the API. We're kind of stuck using, sort of, because there isn't a lot available, at least with our restrictions. But that is something that is hopefully going to be done by the last commit date, and creating a broker bot with a single trading strategy. We actually have the trading strategy implemented, and we can create broker bots from command line and using our main control. And we're hoping that we should also be able to live paper trade by the time the commits end. So one thing that I worked on out of all these goals was mostly the data format. So we basically take in data from the API and convert it to a pandas data frame. So choosing an API actually kind of proved to be tricky because, some of them aren't free or there are restrictions on them. So we decided to go with Alpaca, which is a relatively new API, but it has most of what we need. And once we were able to get the data flow coming in through like WebSockets and stuff, we're able to make our own data format, which is pretty cool. So here's a small list of my contributions. A lot of my time was spent researching, but I also did get, a fair amount of coding done. And I mostly worked on the data handler and some of the portfolio manager aspects of our program. So thank you everyone for watching. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
All right. Let's see. I think next one is 00009 Scheif. So why don't we, while he's getting up, anybody have any questions for Brokerbot? We do have a suggestion on how to make money.
Using ML to create trading strategies. Yeah, that is something we're looking into ML, but it's a bit complex for what we wanted to accomplish this semester. But in future semesters, we'll definitely be looking into that more. But yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, you kind of have to have the framework there before you can test. Before you can test them, or before you can make money off them. So,
yeah,
cool.
Exactly.
So you're running into one of those things where there's a secret sauce that you want to monetize. You want the whole platform to be open source, or you're happy to have the whole platform be open source, but you have kind of a secret sauce that you want people to pay for. Is that kind of what you're thinking of, how to make money for this?
Yeah, that's pretty much the road we want to take.
Cool. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why MIT license is in favor in a lot of industry, is because, if you're in GPL territory, then you have to be kind of careful how you do that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. So I can see kind of how that ties in with what you chose for your license. Cool. All right. Any other questions before we move on to the drawing game by Team Eli Schiff? All right, Eli, why don't you take it away? I'll give you a marker at 10 minutes, but that's not your required stop time. It's just to keep everything moving.
All right, can you hear me?
You sound great.
All right, so my project was the drawing game by me, and I sent all the information you need in chat in case you're interested. Just to quickly start off, this presentation is under the Creative Commons license, so you are free to use it, modify it, whatever you're allowed to do with the Creative Commons license, because the whole point of this class is open source, so I thought my presentation should be Creative Commons. Just a quick description of what the project is. So I am trying to recreate Scribble.io as an open source project. In case you don't know what Scribble is, it's sort of like charades, but you draw. So there's a bunch of people in a game, and one person is able to draw in the middle of the screen a word that was given to them, and then everyone types in chat and tries to guess the word. And if your guess is incorrect, it shows up in chat, and if it's correct, it doesn't. And there's a picture on the right of the real game Scribble.io. And obviously the point is to be the fastest to guess the word. You get more points for doing that. And you play a bunch of rounds, and then whoever wins has the most points. A little bit about my project organization. So this project was developed 100% for open source software. I started it this semester. I came up with the idea this semester, and I programmed it strictly for open source software, not Arcos. The project, so the presentation is Creative Commons, but the project is under the MIT license. The reason I chose the MIT license is just because it's simple and it's got limited restrictions, which I like because I want people to be able to use my work, do what they want with it, expand on it without many restrictions. The repository can be found on GitHub. I have all the links at the end of the presentation. My repository contains a bunch of different things. So I've got a README, which has a description, stuff like that. A code of conduct. So I've copied one of the very popular code of conducts. I think GitHub might have even suggested one. I can't remember. And then I have a contributing guide. So that's got how to install the project, what to do if you want to make changes, all sorts of stuff like that. So any new member, I haven't had outside contributors, but if somebody wants to contribute, they could go there and they would be able to see exactly how to get it up. And then my blog is just using the GitHub discussions. I have styles. The styles is enforced through linting, so you don't really have to think about it. It just sort of works. The documentation, as I said, can be found all throughout my repo. I use the issue tracker to keep track of different issues and stuff that needs to get done, as well as I try to label things. I always try to make good first issues, which is something I saw on Submiti when I was working on that in the past. And that just makes it easy if someone were to come in, and again, nobody has, but if someone wanted to come into my project and work on it, they can know exactly what I thought would be the easiest things to start on. Sadly, I know that Turner's a big fan of testing, but I did not have time for testing this semester, so that did not happen. But in the future, I'm hoping to add some Cypress tests to just test the program. A little bit about the technology I used. So as I said, I have the new contributed first issues, but just in general, I did not want to use a database. It's just me programming this. I don't have a ton of time to work with a ton of different things. So my goal was for simplicity. So everything is stored in RAM at the moment at which a game's created. So if the server restarts, the games all get lost. But what that does allow me to do is it just makes everything simpler. So the tech I did use on the front end, I used Vue.js, and that's something I already knew. And on the back end, I used Python. But the new stuff I learned this semester was WebSockets. I've never done anything really with WebSockets before. And on the front end, I use HTML Canvas, which is a thing for allowing you to draw shapes and all sorts of like drawing tools for the front end. Or it allows you to draw. You have to add all the tools, but it makes it much simpler. Some of my goals for the semester. So my goal was to re-implement the core gameplay of Scribble.io. So that includes sharing a board. So if someone draws on one screen, it needs to show up on all the other client screens. So it's like sort of a shared drawing space. There needs to be a chat feature, which the chat, as I said before, is where you actually guess the words. So you need to be able to type, and it needs to show up on other people's screens. It needs to display the word that you're drawing. So if you're drawing, as you'll see in my later demo, I'm going to be drawing a shoelace. It needs to show the person guessing that there's a bunch of blanks, which are how many characters they have to guess, and the person who's drawing that it's a shoelace. Obviously, you need the ability to actually guess. I wanted to add a scoreboard and make sure the website looks decent. New features I wanted to add that were not in Scribble.io, which is the main reason I was making this project. The biggest one was spell check. I'm not a great speller, and the worst thing that happens in Scribble.io is when you add a word and you type it in, and then it's spelled with one character off, and everyone sees the word, and then they just spell it correctly and guess it. So having a spell check just makes it so that if I'm not spelling a real word, it allows me to fix that before I send, which is huge for people like me who can't spell very well. And then I also wanted to add better drawing tools. So that would be like, think of MS Paint tools. So instead of just being able to draw lines, which is what the main game has, I wanted to add an undo button. I wanted to add squares, rectangles, circles, all sorts of stuff like that. As far as progress, I would say on the core gameplay, I'm about 80% done. It was only me working on it this semester, so I did not fully finish the game, sadly. But so you're able to share the board. You can draw on one screen. It shows up on any collected clients. The chat works. Displaying the words works. The guessing is about 50% done. I still need some work on the back end. So there is no way to officially guess a word other than you can type it in, but it doesn't do anything. There's no scoreboard. And sadly, I have not really done anything with CSS. So the website looks a little bad. New features, I was able to get to spell check, but I was not able to get to some of these other drawing tools, sadly. And now I'm just going to give a quick demo of how it works. So you're going to see in this video, there's two screens, the top and the bottom. These are just, you can imagine they're individual clients connected, so they don't have to be on the same network. If I set it up on a server, they're just both on my computer for easier, but they're not connected. So anything that happens on one, if it gets transferred to the other one, that happens all through my server. So you can see in this demo that the person on the top got a shoelace. So you're gonna see my terrible drawing skills as I try to draw a shoelace. And all of these drawings are getting forwarded to the client on the bottom. So the client on the bottom, it's getting WebSocket messages from the server, and it's just duplicating anything that was drawn on the top. But you can see it's different because the word has all underscores versus the person who's drawing at the top doesn't. And this is my attempt at trying to draw shoelaces. I'm not the best artist. And you can see that it needs some CSS work, but the core functionality is there. You can draw, you can change colors, stuff like that. I think it's almost done. And then after this, I've got one more demo. I couldn't do it all at once, but I have one more demo that, one more demo. So this would be the chat feature. I was unable to, just because of me doing it all at once. This would have been happening during the game, so you can imagine that this is all happening during the game. But the person on the top is trying to guess what the word was. That person on the top's name is Clippy. The person on the bottom is going to be me. So I'm like, I don't actually have the official guessing thing in yet because I was not able to get it done. So that's why I'm responding. And you can see I added spell check there, which is nice because imagine if I had typed shoelace wrong, which is how I would probably spell shoelace because I'm not great at spelling. It would have ruined the game because everyone would have been able to get it. And that's it. Here are some links to my stuff. Real quick, here's just in case Turner wants, these are all my contributions, including some to the open source software repo. But that's my presentation.
Oh, Eli, where to start? You gave me so many interesting things to ask questions about. Prasanna's asking.
So the site's not live. I tried to get it working on Heroku, but honestly, I couldn't figure it out. And as you saw, I didn't have the whole thing done. So focusing on trying to add more features versus getting it live online, I chose to focus on the features. So yeah, there's no way to demo it. And the reason I have the videos is because it's a little buggy right now. So
yeah, so I have to second that. So what I liked, so I have to tell you that I liked your analysis of why you didn't put the database in. Want to go over that again?
Yeah. Can I talk about how I did something similar in Quacks as well? Because
Sure.
It's the same idea.
Yeah.
So that's not, I'm working on Quacks for Arcos, but it's a similar idea. So the idea here is databases, one, are just, they're a pain because they're not, like when you restart your server, at least from my experience, right, or the database doesn't really reset. So you have to deal with like migrating data if you change the schema, all sorts of stuff like that. So databases just, they add a lot of work. And they're not so easy when you like want someone else to be able to use your project, stuff like that. So on Quacks, as well as this, the goal I had was always to try to reduce the amount of database, reduce the amount of things I have to do. So ideally, if I can make the website just front end with nothing else, that's ideal. So that's what I've done with Quacks. For this website, sadly, or not sadly, but I need a server to forward data in between clients. But I looked at it, and there's nothing really that I need to persist. So yes, if the server restarts, the game will be lost. But in 99% of the situations, the server's not restarting. So trying to like write stuff to a database and that just doesn't make any sense. Why not just keep it in like, I just literally have a Python dictionary variable that stores all the data for all the games. It just simplifies my ability to code so I can code it faster with really not really much of a downside unless the server were to restart mid-game.
So what I liked about that was your focus on getting something doable in a semester, right? I mean, that was part of what the minimum viable product you came up with was, right? Let's get rid of all the stuff that detracts from it, like having to do the database, and get as close to a minimum viable product as possible. Because
the other secret with this is it reduced costs, because if you're hosting it somewhere, having a database is just an added cost. And this is like a free project I'm making in my free time. I don't like have funding or anything for it. So.
Yep. So I like those aspects. I also like the put in a CC on your Creative Commons on your presentation. Much appreciated. Nicely done. I think I'm going to stop there so we can move on to the next person. But I also like the fact that you were using the issue tracker even as a single person project, just because that brings benefit to even a single person project. And it's optimistically looking forward to the time when you won't be a single person project. So I like both of those aspects of that as well. So I guess I'm not asking a lot of questions, but cool. And you do need an aglet on the end of your shoestring.
Oh yeah, I sort of was doing it off memory, but that's smart.
No, that's the little plastic thing on the end. And there is a song about it on. Yeah, I can't remember the name of the show now, the cartoon now though. Phineas and Ferb, yes, with Perry the Platypus. Cool. All right. Good job. Let's have our next victim. I need drawing game spell check. Yeah, I need drawing check. A lot of my stuff looks like a blob, unless I take a lot of time. Eifer. 4 O's and a 4, and then Eifer.
Hi, we have 3 people presenting, including me.
Cool. Can you all get in or not?
Need one. I think we just need one more space. Sorry.
I think we're good now, right? We have you, Josh, and
Yep.
Abdul. All right.
Yeah, we should be good.
All right, let me know when we're ready.
Okay, can everybody hear and see my screen?
Yes. Well, we can hear you and see your screen. We can't hear your screen.
All right.
Just saying.
So we are a spoiler block. Next slide. Spoiler block is a browser extension which aims to block spoilers from web pages that users visit. When a user goes to each page, the extension calculates the likelihood of spoilers appearing on the page and blocks any spoilers. The goal of the extension is to filter out suggested results from Google while searching, block elements on the page that have a possibility of being spoilers, and allow customization, for example, the color that is used to block the spoiler, and the threshold that is used to determine whether or not a page has too many spoilers. Next slide. So we split up our team into two teams, the front-end team and the back-end team. As a project lead, I manage both subgroups. The members of the front-end team include Covenant, Rory, Serena, and Victoria. The members of the back-end team include Ben and Josh. At our subgroup meetings, we would give status updates and assign new work, as well as help each other with issues. At general meetings, we would give a more general status update and make important decisions such as picking a logo and making style guide decisions. All meeting notes are public in our Discord server. As you can see on the right, we have organized the Discord channels to have a UI team and backend team, and the text channels to have corresponding channels. Next slide.
So in terms of organization, we of course had a README, which kind of gave a general overview of our team members and different things. But we also had the wiki, which was a more, I guess, organized collection of information. So there's a page for like a contribution guidelines and code of conduct and things like that. But again, the README was just like a kind of a brief summary. We made heavy use of the issue tracker, which was really helpful. So whenever we had an issue that we encountered or we wanted to add a new feature, we would post on there, and that would really let us help have like organized discussions. And it always gave us like something to work on because we had all of our issues in one place. In terms of license, we chose the GPL just because we kind of wanted to keep it open. We felt that there could be a lot of ways to expand this project and think of new features. So we wanted to keep it open as much as possible to contributions in the future. And we chose to use GitHub discussions, sort of keeping everything in one place on GitHub. We use GitHub discussions for our blog posts. So every week, one of us would post a thread and say, like, respond to this with what you worked this week and what you're working on next week and what kind of technical blockers. We kind of stole the rubric from the Arcos status updates, but we thought that was helpful to help us keep track of things like that. And also, we would talk about what new technologies we learned that week. And then in terms of more organization, we so for testing, whenever we committed or pushed or sent a pull request, the test would run and it would make sure that all the code compiled and there were no warnings or anything like that. And that would really help keep our main branch free from at least those errors that could be detected, to make sure everything like built and compiled correctly. So that was really helpful. And even though this project is relatively new and small, we have 7 people and it started really this semester, we thought it would be nice to have both contribution guidelines and a code of conduct, just to be 100% sure that anyone who wanted to join the project would know exactly what to do and how to contribute, and they would be welcomed in a respectful and good environment. And we had coding guidelines to make sure that there's consistency among our code. For example, we used React on our front end, so one of our guidelines was make sure all the components are functional components rather than class. So just to ensure consistency, and like you mentioned before, our communication channel was Discord, and that's publicly linked right in the README. So again, if someone just joins the project, they can look at the README and join the Discord and start asking questions and joining the conversation. And finally, we just used branching to make sure that each feature was on a separate branch, and it really helped us kind of compartmentalize the issues and features that we're working on. So in terms of progress for the front end team, we were able to get the place like color blocks over spoilers. So as we'll see in the demo, if you go on a page and there's a piece of or a paragraph that has a spoiler word in it, like dies or death, something like that, there is a color block. And in terms of customizability, you're able to change that color from red to green to blue. There's a few the pre-selected colors that we have. And also we have custom filter words and filter groups. So for example, if you're watching a show like Game of Thrones, you could go to your custom words, navigate to it, create a new group, name it Game of Thrones, and then add words that relate to that show so that those words would also be blocked from the webpage as you visit them. And finally, we made spoiler threshold, which basically the concept of that is you can set the threshold to a certain percentage. And if a web page has a certain % chance of spoiling something, it wouldn't show that if it was greater than your threshold. So if your threshold was, let's say 50%, and the web page had a 60% chance of showing spoilers, it would give you a warning before you were able to enter that web page, that it would say, hey, like this is potentially a dangerous website in terms of spoilers. But yeah, so now Josh is going to talk about the back end progress.
Yeah, so on the back end, we got a lot of progress done. We were able to get the our JavaScript file to read from a local JSON, which was kind of annoying, but very important when dealing with this, because we have a separate dictionary of words that are just held in a JSON. So whenever you just want to add words that are on the baseline spoiler words, you only have to edit that one JSON and never worry about anything else. We were able to filter out all the spoilery words that were both from that JSON file and from any of the Atom custom words that you would add. So, and then that went into the creation of the whole word dictionary as a whole, and all that was done via dictionary lookups. As compared to, like, if you look up like a basic how to replace a word in a Google Chrome extension, you'll get like a basic thing where it basically just goes for a loop and you have like a few words. That could get very slow when you have several hundred words. So that completely made everything lightning fast and prevent you from getting spoiled just from a glance. And then we also have the blocking of auto complete just on Google for right now. We're working on getting it to work on other things, but it's just Google for now. So if you were to type in Snape, you would not get the rest of that spoilery phrase or whatever you may expect from Googling the word Snape and for the evaluation. So we did get a functional extension working. We have achieved like pretty much all of the main goals that we've set out, but there still is a lot of work for growth. Currently, there are 11 issues that the apps still have to work on. You have the spoiler warning pop-up implementation that still is being worked on still a little bit. We have more advanced spoiler detection as a possibility in the future, which may have to involve some kind of machine learning or something else to detect words that are more like keywords on that page that may be spoiler that aren't on the list or you haven't added yet, and then allow users to specify like shows and movies that they're watching and pull keywords from public database. So you just don't have to either insert all your bulk words into the custom words, stuff like that. Again, that may go towards more of a machine learning route, something like that. But that's much more in the future where we're still in more of the infancy of the app. And for now, we're going to go to a live demo. And just as a warning, if any of you have not seen Star Wars or are intending to see Star Wars and have not seen it, just close your eyes for 1 second. So right here, we're on the character page of Darth Vader, who's kind of the face of Zap because it was introduced with Darth Vader, and now we're going to come up here. We're going to turn it on, and now all of the paragraphs that now contain a spoilery word are now covered in red. You can highlight them kind of if you want to see behind it, and you can change the colors, so blue, green, orange, purple, whatever have you. And then up here you can see all the different features that we have. You can hover over these question marks and see what they're told. So it's color. Here's the add and edit keywords. And so we only have the default group right now. So if we wanted to make a new keyword group, oh, too fast. So we just want to make it Star Wars. New keyword group up here. So if we just wanted to block like word, let's just say Darth because that shows up a lot. So if you wanted to block Darth, blocks all instances of Darth. You see that? So let's see. Let's number one. We'll put an Anakin. I could spell Anakin. I think I spelled it wrong or something. Oh, there we go. And so it'll block all of that. So yeah. So that's about all that we have to show, and that is all. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions? So, you notice I don't actually wait for anybody to ask questions before I start in, but I will go back. So here's one of the things that I'm interested in. One of the useful things about open source is that you can get people working on different parts of the project. So if I'm reading this correctly, this is an extension to Chrome. Is that correct?
Yep.
So how well have you isolated like the Chrome parts from like what you would need for something like Firefox or a different? Would it be possible for somebody to pick up and while you're working on the Chrome part, add the extensions for Firefox, for example?
It's a good question.
In our initial scope, we wanted to target Chrome browsers first, but definitely in the future we'd want to expand it to like Firefox and other browsers. So yeah, that would be like in the future to come.
Okay. No, I was just curious because that's one thing you can start thinking of. It's while you guys are if you can isolate that part of the project while you guys are focusing on Chrome. Somebody who comes in and says, "Man, I hate that Chrome browser. Let me do Windows Edge instead." They could work on taking all of your code and putting it in another browser, and that would like it's a multiplier against your effort. It was just a thought. There was nothing you did was wrong, and in fact, working on a simplified, minimal viable product, like. Edge now runs Chromium. Okay, so maybe that's a non-starter.
Yeah.
No, but working on a minimum viable product, like I said with Eli, that's a really great. That's what you want to concentrate on, getting something out there. But that was just one of my thoughts was, boy, that seems like an awesome opportunity to get other people involved doing, just leveraging everything you guys did. So it's not, there's no negatives to what you did. It's just kind of thinking outside the box.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good idea to consider.
Yeah. Cool. So this does, I was right. This is an extension in Chrome and it kind of sits there.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I would have to block all of Star Wars 2 and 3. Right? Because one spoiled it for me. I couldn't watch another one after that yet. I'm still hoping that I'll recover from the PTSD and be able to go back and see the rest of them at some point. Samarth. Project name Virtual Tablet 0018 Zekak. Okay, I think that's Samarth telling us that he is ready to get going. Thank you guys. That was really nice.
Cool.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Am I in?
You are in, and you're vocal.
Awesome. Yep. Colton's also in. Perfect. Let me share my screen.
Yep, I can be heard as well, right?
Yes.
Cool. Is the presentation up?
The presentation is virtual tab and it is up.
Awesome. So the project that Colton and I worked on this semester is called Virtual Tab. We have the group identifier underneath as well as in the chat if you guys need it. So just a quick overview of what our project's trying to do. If you're not aware of what graphic tablets are, they look sort of like iPads, and their main purpose is to help you draw on your computer. So there's a stylus over here, and you can basically draw on the tablet, and it'll move your mouse on your computer screen. So these are great, but they're super expensive sometimes, and they also take up a lot of space. So what we wanted to do was make something for more casual users that can be a little bit less precise, but is completely free. And like when you're done with it, it takes up no space at all. So the solution that we came up with is camera-based. So it uses your computer's camera to track a stylus that you designate. So this is kind of abstract. So we have a quick demo of the final product, and then we'll go into more details about the project, the project structure, stuff like that. So step one is to make the stylus. Anything can work really, as long as it's comfortable. So what we have here is a 10-cent pen, and then it has a high contrast tip. So like the cap of the pen is green, which is really important because green is really easy to track with the camera. And then I duct tape off the rest of the pen cap so that the tip is a very small green area. If the entire cap was green, the entire cap would be tracked, and that would be a little bit less precise than if just the tip was green. So let's show step one. So step one is basically to track the pen tip. So you can configure these sliders across the top to basically track just the pen tip. So that's what's being shown here. You can see the little crosshair on top of the center of the tracked pen. And you can configure it to track any color at all. You can just change these sliders so that it picks up blue, green, purple, whatever have you. Then the second step is to define your tracking region. So that was just me testing beforehand, but basically you can move your, like once you have the pen tip being tracked, you can just move the pen to different locations on your screen or in the real world and press enter. So what I did over here was I moved the pen to this corner, this corner, this corner, this corner, and press enter at each corner. So that way I can define where the mouse, like where I want to be drawing. So let me continue the video. So I just press enter 4 times. And now whenever I move the mouse within this region, the mouse should basically treat this as the, like this is like the region of the trackpad that's being tracked. And finally, this is everything coming together. So I have my notebook over here, and I define the 4 corners by pressing enter, like in the previous step. And now, as anywhere I move the pen within this region, the mouse follows. So that's pretty much the end product here. Right now, I'm just showing you how the 4 corners of the trackpad region correspond to the 4 regions of your actual screen. Cool. So now that you guys have an idea of what our project is, I'm going to be going into more of the project specifics and in particular how this relates to open source. So at the beginning of the semester, we set out mainly 4 goals. We wanted an application that can basically track a stylus in the real world and then move a mouse on screen. We're going to be going into this a little bit more in depth in our progress section, but this is just an overview of what we wanted to do at the beginning of the semester. As for how we organize our project, we have a GitHub repository and a README. The README is super in-depth. So we have getting started information over here for both developers and for new users. We have a troubleshooting section because accessing cameras and moving the mouse requires sometimes requires like security permissions from the OS, as well as links to different resources. I wonder if I can go back to the presentation. There we go. So we also have a discussion forum. In particular, we have our Discord community. Right now it's just Colton and I, but in the future we hope it expands to be more people. We have an issue tracker. And right now, since it's just Colton and I, we don't have strict guidelines on the issue templates. But as we expand, we do think that we should be following issue templates more strictly because we might not know exactly what's going on in the pull request or the bug fix that it's being requested. As for CI infrastructure, right now we have a GitHub action that will automatically format your code. So even if you upload Python code that doesn't fit our style guidelines, it will automatically fix it and push a commit that will fix everything. So that's our main automation strategy so far. In the future, we definitely want to have some Python testing that can, to start off with, just make sure that the Python code doesn't have syntax errors. In the future, we do want to add tests, but we're currently not sure how that's going to look because this is a GUI application. It requires your camera. Maybe a test video would help, but all of this stuff can be fleshed out in the future once we have our base set of features working.
Right, and then I think I'm gonna pick up from there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everyone, just make sure everyone can see my screen and everything.
Yes.
Okay. All right, perfect. Yeah, so kicking off for the contributions side of things, we obviously have our GitHub commits, and then as Martha mentioned, we have our getting started documentation, and that is right over here. So we have our README with virtual tab. We have an overview, our initial goals, what's accomplished so far, getting started, and so on and so forth. And then for a learning path, Samartha also made this fantastic page about setting up OpenCV, NumPy, and everything else. And then going back, so that covers the new user learning path as well as blog posts, or new user learning path as well as getting started and everything. So continuing on, as briefly mentioned, some of the learning and the new tools that we experience on this project include OpenCV. I personally had never known anything about a lot of the, I guess, matrix algebra that went into the, I guess, camera algorithms and whether you have stereo cameras and whatnot. So I learned about we learned about eroding, dilating, thresholding operations, stuff using in-range, transformations, and so on and so forth. So going on a little bit more about our blog posts. So here is just one of our blog posts, and this one talks about how we did our real-time pen tracking. There's also other ones about the impact of Google versus Oracle on open source software, and we talk about MongoDB licensing, and we add some of our blog posts in throughout the semester, and just to add more content, just to add more spice to the project, because I mean it's based on open source after all. So going back, we have our GitHub wiki, and as of now, it just links back to our README. But this week wiki is something that we're going to build on and go into more in depth throughout the remainder of the semester. So, for progress in our minimum viable product, as of right now, we got the vast majority of stuff done that we had planned on getting done in the beginning of the semester. So that includes working on an application that can successfully map a stylus in the real world to screen coordinates. We also were successfully able to accomplish having a GUI interface that enabled you to modify settings and see the stylus being tracked in real time. And it also allowed you the ability to move the mouse pointer. And we even tried messing around with OSU and trying to get OSU to work with the mouse pointer. And we had some success, but there's still some issues that we're trying to iron out with making it so that you can use a camera or use your phone camera to actually use this as a real stylus. And then the only other thing that we don't have that much of a problem with, or that we're still working on, is working on global keybinds that turn tracking on and off. And then reeling back in, we have some questions. So it actually, believe it or not, Nick, the latency wasn't that much of a problem. It was a lot faster and a lot more responsive than we had originally thought. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely room for improvement, but it's not. I thought it would have taken a while and it would have been completely unplayable, like trying to deal with a VR headset and trying to map it to a keyboard. But it was surprisingly usable. We just had to figure out some issues with stuff that was freezing up. So, yeah. And Samarth can definitely talk more about that than I can.
Yeah, I think the main issue was that OSU probably has some kind of mouse stuff behind the scenes.
Even like anti-cheat.
Yeah, probably like an anti-cheat or something, because what our program does is it basically like moves the mouse to discrete locations instead of interpolating between them. So OSU's probably like noticing that we're just like the mouse is in like one corner at one point and then it moves like 10 pixels without moving anywhere in between. So I think that's why it didn't work with OSU. But you can definitely use it for Paint or Illustrator or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, even yesterday we were messing around with it in MS Paint and, well, rest in peace MS Paint, but other just drawing utilities, and it was surprisingly reactive. And the only problem was, and again, Samarth can talk more about this, but stuff with dealing with mouse tracking on a Mac, because OS X it's a blocking operation where it doesn't allow your mouse to update as frequently, from my understanding, as it does on Windows.
Oh. Yeah, so the clicking is definitely something that we want to work on. Right now, what we have to do is you have to click the mouse button on your actual mouse for it to click. We considered two things to address this issue. The main one was having stereo camera, or two cameras basically. And if you have two cameras, you can get depth information to figure out whether your pen is actually touching the table or not. That was outside the scope of our project. We just wanted to get something up and running. So right now, you just gotta click something on your mouse to get it to actually click.
Yeah, and that was another thing we were talking about, where we switched from the GPLv3 to the MIT license. And yeah, we can also talk more about that later, but don't want to take up too much time.
Yeah, let's let them have the screen, and then you can keep answering questions till they are ready, if that's okay.
Sure, sounds good to me. All right, we'll hop off the table, or the
presentation. Yeah,
the podium, or yeah,
whatever that's called, the sharing the stage thing. I think it's really the first thing we need to get rid of. All right. Okay, so
hi.
That was nicely done, guys. Yes, we can hear you. Is this Yang B7?
I also have Stephen Lee to present with me. So if you can raise your hand, so the professor can invite you to the stage.
You can probably just join as well, but if you raise your hand, we'll definitely get you up here.
Oh, there he is. Figure out how to share my screen. Window. there. Okay, can you
Yep.
see my screen?
Looks good.
All right, cool. Just percent button. So hi everybody. This is Team Fear Splitter. So first off, here's our team members. So this is Bo Gong Yang, and I'm presenting with Stephen Lee and Ying Hao and Transform is. I believe they are not going to make it live due to time zone differences. So we will be presenting on their behalf. And so a general description of what we are doing is during COVID time. So like I'm living with my roommates, and we sometimes order food or pizza on Grubhub, and I'm too lazy to like pay the person who is making the orders like every single time, and we found that it's been a hard time to track all the payments and the correct amount. So we came up with this idea to build a payment tracker, basically to keep track of who should pay for what and for how much. And Stephen is going to talk about the goals for us for this semester.
Yeah, so we want to learn some techniques in this semester. So we use the view for the front end, and we use the flex for the back end. Most of us in our project are not familiar with these two techniques, so we are trying to learn it in this semester. And we want to make an easy to use UI, because like an UI is important for people to use our project. And this is a new project in this semester. We want to get some basic features done. The features like add the payment records and the users, and also the features like calculate the payments due for each person.
Next slide.
Yeah, so we have two repositories for this project, one for the backend and one for the front end. We use this way to kind of like decouple our code. We use the MIT license for both of our repository, because MIT license is easy to use and it's certainly an open source license. And the installation guide, basically, I mean the README file for the backend, it is available. But we're still working on the front end, so we will add the README file by the end of this week. We use the GitHub issue checker to track the issues and request the features. So the code of conduct, the contribution guideline, and the style guideline can be found in both repositories. About the style guide for the code, this one is special. We used auto-leading on our local dev environments, and we will try to integrate the leading actions on the GitHub. And basically, we use the Discord to communicate through our group.
I'm going to talk a little bit about our contribution progress so far. So what is done is, since most of us are like quite new to the field of web development, so we definitely learned some JavaScript frameworks such as Vue.js and Flask, and we have a full functional backend up and running. That is basically like, those are like API endpoints that receive and returns JSON data. And it connects to a database, basically any relational database of the user's choice via Flask SQL Alchemy. And for the front end, we have some Vue components for visualizing this data and pulling this data from backend. So we actually use polling. So we refresh the page like every 5 seconds to like keep the information as new. On our blog, we posted some of our technological difficulties encountered during the implementation process, and how we overcome those difficulties and how we solve them. Just trying to help those new contributors to like solve their problems if they encounter the same. And what have not done yet is we're thinking about to add a feature to let the user to select a specific time duration, so that the program will display the amount due for each person, or only at that like specific time period. So that's our on our schedule. And some issues or bugs we encountered for now. So we split our backend and front end into two different parts. So first thing to count is cores, but we found a module called Flask Cores that solved this. Like, and during our implementation process, there is a ton of changes going on our like database models and schemas. So we used Flask Migrate to help with schema migrations. So it can basically automatically generate like upgrade and downgrade scripts, which is very useful and efficient. So we also need to check or sanitize user input. We haven't done that yet. So our code is not good for like handling non-legal inputs, but it was intended for use at home. So it's not on the public network. So I guess that's not too great a concern. And the current deployment process is very complex. So you have to deploy the front end and the back end parts separately, and to configure them to make them up and running. And we are considering to use Docker to automate, to add some source of automation to the process. And currently the CSS is basically non-existent. So the looks of the pages are pretty poor, but barely usable, I would say. So as mentioned before, for future, we plan to like write some like Docker files and stuff like that to automate the deployment process. And we're planning to use Bootstrap to add some like the look and feel to our page. And we want to integrate linting actions available on GitHub Marketplace to enforce code linting to make our code looks more consistent. And we're not doing live demo, but here's a screenshot about the project for the time being. So on the left side, you can see each transaction record that has a label, text label description about what the payment was about, and a timestamp, and each user associated with the amount that is due for them. And on the right side, we can add new users and we can add new transactions, and the program will calculate the amount due for each user at the bottom of the page. So that's basically it. Thanks for watching, and any questions?
All right, let's get our last group up there while we're talking to you about questions. Who's our last group?
Sure.
Just scroll all the way up there. Zamanj. 00, all 5 zeros, Zamanj, our first person to sign up. Okay, do we have Bagong on, or is this Zamanj?
Yeah, this is Zamanj.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear
All right.
you.
Let me get my screen shared. All right.
Okay, yeah, we completely lost the previous group. I was going to try to ask them some questions, but that's okay. Let's get through this. And if anybody has any, no, it's not your, we lost them out of the stage because we needed to bring your stage in. If anybody has questions for, please ask. Please type that into chat. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't think one of our group members can join.
Okay, I think I have to leave in order to do this. So let's see how this works.
Well,
Okay, that works.
There we go. All right. Yeah, let's get started. So we are employed. This is a project we worked on this semester. Basically, we are a business exchange application where people can immediately connect with skilled workers of all categories, including electricians, general contractors, landscaping services, etc., to set up and complete specific projects, tasks, and any home renovations that you may have planned. So this is our team. We have four people developing from the class. I'm Jacob, and we have Nick, Arnold, Thomas, and Chris. And
yeah, so these are our goals. Employed is almost finished. This semester we worked on finalizing specific pages and core features. So as you can see, our goals were to create a new Discover page to discover new providers, create a notifications and messaging system, update the consulting requests to make it look a little bit better, rework the jobs page and make it mobile friendly, and add a new calendar component so you can see your scheduled time for the job. Finish up the provider sign up feature. So when you become a user, you can select to become a provider. We finished that feature. And we also finished the settings page. The two things that we didn't finish was user authentication, probably one of the most important things, but we saved that for the last, and hopefully we can get that implemented soon. And we also didn't add the image and video functionality. So when you're creating a provider, you want to have images of your previous work or videos of previous work. And we hope to finish that soon. Next slide. And now I'll go into project organization. We just use the GitHub projects, and this is a Kanban style project board. As you can see, we have to-do tasks, the tasks that are in progress, and we also have a review and a reviewer approved. So when you make a change, we decided to, the project isn't huge and there's not many people in our group, but we wanted to give it a try. So when you complete a feature, you can submit it, pull request, and have a review for it. And then off to the right, we have done tasks. We also have a code of conduct, contributing, license, and our README. Next slide. We also used a few different locations for communication. We used Discord. We set up a cool Discord to talk. And we also used a few different packages. So I don't know if anybody's heard of Husky. It's a commit linting package. So we used conventional commits in our project. And what that allows us to do is automatically create change logs. So conventional commits is like feat, fix, refactor, chore, and so on. We also use ESLint and Prettier to enforce our styles. So every time you hit save, your project will automatically format to our styles. We also had we use this thing called Insomnia REST API, or REST. It allows you to call REST APIs. When we set this up, it's a way to talk to the backend in a generalized, easy setup way. And that was our project organization. I'll hand it to Jacob for documentation.
all right, so we have comments scattered throughout the front end, and we try to keep it relatively organized. Our main documentation lies in the back end. We set up a Swagger page for our API that pops up as soon as we're fired off, explaining all of our routes, where they're used, how to use them, and even some testing. And then for contributions, we had significant contributions throughout, monitoring how much, who, when, setting up pull requests whenever somebody completes the task to all make sure we review and make sure it merges and everybody gets the latest versions. Of course, we also had issue tracking set up as previously mentioned. And we made sure we had weekly updates, usually on Wednesdays, to keep up to date what we're working on, making sure we're staying on task on our timeline to complete our tasks. And of course, we had our blog posts that are found on the observatory site. Now we're going to show a quick demo. Of course, we didn't have enough, probably didn't have enough time to boot it up and run through everything. So we have a few GIFs and images to show what we've accomplished. So as we stated before, we have our Discover page that lists every single category that you can find a provider to complete a service for, with some descriptions on them. And once you click on that general category, it comes up with results of those types of providers in your area. Our jobs page is where we can see any consultation requests or ongoing jobs that you may have with a provider, showing what you're doing, when you're meeting, or if it's ongoing. And then we have our profile page, which kind of displays the description of providers, what they've accomplished, what kind of jobs they can perform for you, where you can actually request a meeting or a job with a provider, and just some cool likes and reviews. And reviews, yep, you can leave a review and see all the reviews down there. And Chris, if you want to talk about your notifications and messaging system.
Yeah, so this is just a quick overview of the flow of looking at your inbox of messages and then replying to one of the messages. So this is an example consultation request that someone sent by clicking on my profile page. And then I go into my notifications page and I can view my inbox and reply to the request from there. Next slide. And then we can see that the message I just sent was in my outbox. So it's kind of like email in that sense.
So yeah, as we almost reached our goal of completing an MVP, and as previously stated, we're missing authentication, image functionality, along with some finalizations, UI, and finalizing routes. Some of the issues we came across were some minor issues connecting with the API. Throughout, we had it connected with the database in Azure. Ended up using local databases to make it simpler. And then more general issues is how we're going to go about doing authentication and how we want to go about storing and saving images and videos to make sure we're not wasting too much space or doing it efficiently. And we were looking at deployment options once we finished up these things, and had started getting things set up in Netlify to be able to immediately deploy as soon as we finish up our last milestones. And yeah, that sums up our semester. So if you guys have any questions.
So is it possible to hear me or not?
And then I'll post the slides in Discord. We have our individual contributions and what each of us worked on throughout the semester, just one by one. So we'll stop sharing. I think a couple of us have to leave for the professor to join back. How hard would it be to get an MVP? Can you get around the authorization for now? I think we could just implement our own kind of like not so secure, quick authentication. The real struggle would probably just be images and videos, which honestly, I think if we took some time, we could probably figure out. So I think if we had another week or two, we could probably really have the MVP ready to deploy. All right. We're going to jump back to the table. So Professor Turner, you can join back.
All right, I think I'm back. Can you guys hear me again? Good. All right, so good job. I think that was good timing on our part. Just a reminder, please put your slides up in all the presentations today. Please put your slides up in Discord so we can review them as needed. Please start working on getting a status. You guys all have the sheets. If you've done your presentation, you have the stuff you did up through your presentation. Hopefully, please transfer that to the form that I gave you, just so that we have everything in one place. And let us know what you've been working on. That'll make that easier for us as well, so we can get you your grades quickly. And one final thing that I did kind of want to go over, I missed it when I was holding forth on the whole Minnesota study. There was, here we go, a response. I'm on a number of mailing lists, including this one. There you go. This is a military open source software mailing list. So there's some requirements in the federal government to look at open source software. There's no requirement on adoption, but as part of the procurement process to look at using open source software. And MilOSS is one of the places where people interested in open source and software in the government actually hang out. Essentially in the Defense Department. So this is a comment from David Wheeler on this context, just to show you that I'm not just ranting and raving out in the middle of nowhere. David Wheeler is actually a lawyer who's been associated with open source software for a very long time, at least. I mean, I first heard of him back in the 2000s, I think. And he comments on open source software. He's involved with open source software. He's involved with procurement, and he's more of an expert in IP law than I am. And he, again, I don't know that he's an expert in IRBs, except that he's had to do IRBs as well. And this is basically what he said, which is a pretty close. I was really happy to see this because I was concerned that I was completely off base. But he basically says the same thing that I was saying. User surveys or surveys, research surveys, almost always have to go through an IRB process, or always go through an IRB process, and they kind of skipped that for something that had the potential to do a bit of harm, and was essentially experimenting on doing human factors experimentation or research. So this is not my opinion. This is David Wheeler's. He's fairly well respected, at least in the open source world, and he had some of the same concerns that I had. It was just to throw that out there. I think I pasted this into the Slack as well, or Discord as well. But all right, so go forth. We're done with class for today. We have one more class, 6 more excellent presentations to look forward to, and we'll see you all on the last day of April. Is that true? No. Yeah, last day of April, this Friday. Enjoy yourselves, guys. Have fun. Keep safe. Bye.